Flyover State film was shot in front of a live studio audience.
Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas! Welcome to the latest Christmas flyby, the rarest flyby of them all. Because it's TJ and Brian, two guys who have no initiative. So when we get together, you know it's something special, or it's 80s nostalgia, or maybe a little bit of both. I don't know. We'll have to wait and find out. You've probably already seen the thumbnail. We're talking about a Christmas story. Christmas. We're going to talk a little bit about a Christmas story. It's iconic.
Yes.
I mean, it goes without saying. It's so deeply ingrained. It's already it's not only had a backlash, it's had backlash to the backlash. Like, it's cycled through. You know what I mean? Like, so TJ, tell the people a little bit about like your history with A Christmas Story.
Of course. I mean, I grew up on the East Coast. Brian, you're Midwest, where this movie actually like focuses its main like family values on. But the same thing for me. I grew up in probably the time where this became the quintessential Christmas Eve movie, which TBS, TNT has made most of their money on, if not having some of the best Sunday movie
What was it in
broadcasting
like
channels. Out there.
mid to late '90s? It started
Yeah,
being an all-day marathon on cable.
24 hours.
Yeah,
8 o'clock at Christmas Eve it starts, and I used to do this thing where obviously if you're a family or have the normal family, I go to my dad's mom's on
normal,
Christmas
huh,
Eve.
TJ? Way to put everybody in a box, man.
Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. But I do it at my dad's mom's house on Christmas Eve, and everybody at 8 o'clock after all the ruckusing and all that fun, we sit down and watch Christmas Story. Everyone normally leaves before like they get the actual Christmas tree for the film, but it's like that tradition that always hit, and then it plays through from when I get home, through Christmas morning, through Christmas dinner, and then it ends the next day at 8 o'clock on Christmas night.
So you were really there, like you kind of now had you seen it before? Like, is your first memory of ever seeing the movie like on cable? Did you know about it before that, or
No,
just like the first time you saw it, it was on and it was on
like
all
when
day? It was just like it just
yeah,
became okay.
no
So
rank. I did Rankin and Bass for a while. It was the Rudolphs and like the normal stuff, but like this movie, I don't know why it just hit everybody. But I had a little cousin, Clay, shout out Clay, who looked like Peter Billingsley as the kid.
okay,
Blonde hair, bright blue eyes, like with the glasses, and like we would be like, "Oh, you're Ralphie," essentially. And that's kind of I don't know if it drew everybody in, but like that was the main focus. I never saw this beforehand.
okay. So I had a little bit, I'm older. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows. But also, I grew up about 40 minutes outside of Cleveland. So, like, it was like reported in the paper when movies were getting made around us. This is the early 80s. This is getting made in like 83, 84. So,
Is this
like,
Indianapolis too, right?
I don't know. I know they just did some filming in Cleveland. I think it's like the very
Okay.
first part of the movie where they're the Higbee's department store and they're outside.
Yeah.
That is Cleveland. And then I don't
Oh,
know where the rest. And I know that the actual house is in Cleveland too because it got turned to a museum. It's like a museum you can go to.
oh,
Ralphie's house is like a
no.
museum you can go to. So like it was like so my dad was like aware of it, and I know I didn't go see it in the theater. I was probably too young for that, but I guarantee you that the first holiday season it was on VHS, we watched it. So we're probably talking like, the Christmas of 84, 85, whenever it came out. And then
What? Well,
progressively,
before this, what other Christmas movies were out before Christmas Story hit? Like you're thinking Wonderful
oh,
Life.
I don't have a Christmas movie that I
Yeah,
remember before A Christmas Story. That's like that was my Christmas movie.
that's where it
And then
hits.
like so we would rent it. There was a couple of years where we rented it, and then one year for Christmas, once we had a VCR, I got a tape, and then we watched it every year. And then by the time I was a teenager, is when it started with the marathons, and it
Yeah.
really started to roll into a big thing. Um, but I don't think we need to delve too much into it because it is something that everybody's seen so much.
Hmm.
It's based on the books, and also I know he did radio, but Gene Shepard stories of Gene Shepard and his
That voice.
childhood. He's got that voice. He's the voiceover in Christmas Story. It's directed by Bob Clark, who has just like nailed Christmas on both ends of the spectrum. He made like the most classic family Christmas movie and the most classic Christmas horror movie, and just was like, "I'm out. I did it." Mic drop. Black Christmas, in case you aren't aware, and and then you know it, it's got Peter Billingsley went on to be like a producer. He acted a little bit into his teens, but then mostly like kind of became a producer and writer, I think. And
Like the rom com friend, but also not even like the main friend, that third friend that's always in a film or something like that. Yeah,
like
it's
if
like
he'd have been one of Adam Sandler's buddies, he wouldn't have been one of the ones who had lines. You know what I mean? Like
he,
he'd have been in the background.
man, it's I'm trying to think of like which Adam Sandler character would match up with the Peter Billingsley
With Peter
character, and I'm
Billingsley
like,
and John. Yeah.
it's maybe it stinks because Steve Buscemi is probably the biggest name that Adam Sandler gets in most of his films, but also has the smallest, but also most
I was thinking more like an
memorable
Alan
roles in it.
Covert, where like it's clear they were friends before he got famous, and like his roles
Yeah,
got smaller and smaller the more famous Adam Sandler got. The more SNL guys came in, the less you see of Alan Covert until he's just like not in them anymore. You know, that
but
was Peter.
also
That's probably Peter Billingsley, but he didn't need to do that. He produced Iron Man, and then he
yeah,
pops up again in the Spider-Man movies and stuff, and so he's got that Marvel thing going.
yeah,
He's a
it's so
buddy of John
I
Favreau,
always forget
which
about
means
that
he
because
could
like
probably produce a Star Wars if he wanted to. I don't know how that works.
he always like falls in like because I know his like grouping is the Chicago uh crew, like Vince Vaughn and the John Favreau's and stuff like that, where
Yeah.
he's always like falling into that Iron Man, Spider Man, stuff like that. Um, but it's weird because he falls out, and I think I saw him for the first time ever in a separate film in like uh couples reach no the breakup with Jennifer Aniston and Vince
Oh,
Vaughn, where he's
okay.
like get a bag of chips
He's
out
just
and
one of the guys in like in the room, like on when hanging out or whatever.
sit there and you're like, I know that guy from something, I just don't know what it is. And then what TNT did was, I think in like 2000, like 4 or 5, when like I was a junior in high school, when I was watching those 24-hour marathons, is they like took advantage of having the what was the VH1, the pop up video where they'd have
Oh,
like the
okay, yeah,
characters
yeah.
come in commercials and be like, oh, I remember the scene with so and so, and then talk about what they're doing
That's
now.
Peter
And he
Billingsley. Beep,
mentioned
boop,
that, like,
boop.
I'm working on a project with Vince Vaughn. You're like, oh, and then you see him like 2 years later, you're like, oh, that's the kid. That's Ralphie.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, I haven't seen. I don't know what all he's produced since Iron Man and what all he's done with Marvel and stuff. But like I said, I'm sure he's fine. And Darren McGavin was the dad. I think in the new
Oh
movie
man.
they have him die, which is probably a good choice because Darren McGavin really is dead, and that's an impossible recast,
You kidding.
basically.
Did we
I was
do
really impressed with the way they got everybody back for this one, except the mother. I think she might be retired. I looked into her IMDb. She has like a hard stop in like 2007 and hasn't done anything, and that's 15 years ago. So if she stopped acting that long ago and she's still alive, she's
yeah.
probably just retired.
Is the now, I mean, okay, so like if anyone has ever seen the original Christmas story, there's only so many people that actually like moved on and got really into acting. The old man who plays the father, Peter
Yeah,
Billingsley. If the other ones like Flick and Schwartz and stuff like that, small roles, like maybe TV
yeah,
movies
but
type
not
stuff.
much. Yeah,
Um,
but then you
Zach
have Zach Ward. He's the
Zach
other one
Ward,
I would say. Yeah,
Freddy vs. Jason. He does all these little small roles,
he was on
zombie
Titus. He's the
movies.
younger brother on Titus. That's what I was remembering
Yes,
from.
That I fucking love Titus, and I always forget about that. And but like the only thing I didn't really look into, and I don't know if you can help me out with this one, is the little brother the same little brother?
Yeah, same actor too.
I didn't know that. Every time when I saw him, I was like, because every face looks the exact same. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
they do. They look really. It's fun. It's like I said, that was a fun aspect of it. It's like, I mean, it would have been fine to recast it or anything, but it is kind of interesting that they were able to get everybody back and everybody's available. And like, why wouldn't you do it that way? It was fun. It made for a.
And the
I
good
guess
part about
we
it
should
too,
before we. Is there anything else we need to say about the original before we move in to the new
I
one? I
mean,
mean,
if you haven't seen the original, it's really tough to like dive into it because you just talk for hours about it because there's so much like
I guess we were going to talk
cultural.
about how commercial it's gotten. It's become a real
Yes.
brand at
Hmm.
Christmas, and that has led to like some
Like,
crappy attempts at a sequel already. So
mhm.
like we were all tentatively very wary when we heard about this, right? Like, oh, it's coming straight to HBO Max.
And
Like
I,
we were we
I
excited? I don't know. Like
it's like one of those things
it had
where
a
like
good
I wasn't excited because they've been talking about this since those TNT like 2005 specials. Like, oh, we're gonna all get back together, and it's been I don't know another 17 years since then. So it's like when you heard or saw the teaser trailer, the one thing I was worried about was the voiceover because you have to have the voiceover, the Gene Shepard
Yeah.
voiceover. Peter Billingsley, if you ask me, I think nailed it to where you know it's Ralphie. You hear the tone. He still has that like radio.
It's distinct from his voice he's using in the movie, which implies that maybe he's older telling the story. You know what I mean? Like he's like somewhere in between his natural Peter Billingsley voice and a Gene Shepard impression, but it's pretty good.
It just hits that note where you go, oh, and I don't know if it's like the music too, and like seeing the house, and like there's something about the intro of like which Bob Clark does with this movie, Black Christmas. You ever seen it? He has this one shot where it's the house, snow falling, with this beautiful background music, even though there's darkness behind Black Christmas and there's tons of light behind actual a Christmas story. But this one starts off with that, and he's like, it's cool also too the Chicago aspect of the dad going in times. The time aspect for me too was when I was worried about where it was like were they going to actually do a sequel to where it was like he might be the grandfather of somebody or he's going to do
Yeah,
the 80s thing, which they did, which I love.
yeah. What was it? It's supposed to
70s,
be like the early '70s.
70s, yeah.
Yeah. I liked that they gave Ralphie his own thing that was going on with him that wasn't just about like my dad died and I need to like recreate Christmas for my family. He had another like he was at a point in his life where he'd made like a taken a risk and it maybe wasn't paying off, and so like I like that they gave him something to do.
And also like the fact that like in the first film, shout out again, we're gonna go back and forth, but like they gave him the imaginary aspect of you dive into Ralphie's mind for a lot of his
Yeah.
things. The first scene you see in the Red Rifle where he's taking down the whole thing of burglars and stuff like that, where
I
he's
but
writing that way for a while, and it's just mimicking the way he thinks imaginary wise, where he
And I
sees
was
just
thinking as like people are gonna be like, oh, it's just there's gonna be like dismissiveness as far as color. I actually haven't looked at any reviews about this because I don't really care
yeah.
what anybody has to say about it. To be honest with
This
you,
is because this isn't like that's the craziest thing about this is like people are like s- so hung up on this being like a great Christmas movie or holiday movie. Like it should have the most non pressure on it. I don't know how to word
right?
that better, but
No expectations really. Like
nothing.
that's what, yeah,
Who
like
cares? It's an HBO Max fucking thing. It's like one of those things
yeah,
where like I hope it's good.
yeah.
If it's not, we just never watch it again.
Right, exactly. And I think it's like I think it did this movie did a very good job of calling back to things
Mhm.
from the original but also adding something new and bringing something different to the interactions or something. I think a good example was like when you had the flashback where he has the fantasy about the burglars coming to the house and how his family's gonna he's like gonna protect his family again just like in the original, but this time the problem is he's protecting his family too well and he's made them weak and they can't do anything for themselves and they're just like pathetic. It's like so that was a funny little like what it's an interesting way to take it, and it's a way it felt true to the way Ralphie sees the world, but he's also an adult now. That's another thing I related to. I was like, as a grown man who still has childish fantasies sometimes, I can understand that. Like, not to say that you don't think about adult things, but sometimes you like put them in a perspective of
Just that
weirdly kind
small
of
box.
simplify them for
Yeah,
yourself. You know what I mean? And like, and I think the fantasies are fun, a fun way to represent that. And it was a tough tightrope to walk. This movie hits at a bunch of different times. Um, you have the scene with the Santa Claus, so you're
hmm
like, that's sketchy because it's all set up. It looks exactly the same. You don't want to see the exact same thing, but they hit a couple different beats with
yes.
that.
The
The kid in
kids.
line with the sucker. I love the Uncle Buck style repertoire with the little girl and Santa.
Thank you.
So funny, right? It's
That's like
so
one of the
good.
best things ever because I think the little girl also takes to another level because they also spoil like she has like four really great
She's
lines.
definitely
Obviously,
better of the two kid actors. The little boy is all right. I mean,
and
the girl
and
is on point. She's
yeah,
so good.
exactly. It's like in the first one, Ralphie takes the thing, but Randy has like his moments, like eat like a
Yeah,
piggy and like things like that. Where this girl kind of takes over the lead kid role or the first kid.
yeah,
Where like they give the worst part about it is they give like her main lines away in the trailer and the teaser too,
yeah,
like child labor and stuff like that. Where you're like, man, if you just didn't see those things, it would have been amazing. But it's
yeah,
still good. She delivers them.
yeah, yeah. But I think that like the movie does a pretty good job of walking that tightrope. I like the new bits of like the joke, the whole thing with the bar phone call is funny. The thing with them avoiding hating carolers and avoiding carolers is
Well,
funny.
I was thinking that with the bar call thing too is like it brings me back because I know you're a big Simpsons guy, but like the Mo Tavern prank calls too, and like they do that all the time. Like everybody
Absolutely.
just does the whole like what, and they're just worried that's going to be one of them. But the Schwartz with the tab is probably
Yeah.
my favorite thing ever. Now, Flick is the owner of the bar, right? Flick's
Flick's the
Tavern,
bar owner, yeah, and Schwartz
and
is
then
the
Schwartz
guy who
is
eventually rides the sled down that slope.
he's the TJ of the group.
Yeah, sure.
Essentially, he's like, just throw it on my tab. Yeah, I got you guys next time. Like, and also he'll do the sleigh thing and the those weird. It's crazy because like there's a generation of kids now who watch Christmas Story and the Triple Dog Dare and like even me growing up, I didn't know about like I knew about I double dare you, I dare you, but when you got to see this movie when I was probably about 10 or 11 when I realized what I was watching and the
Yeah,
triple dog dare, there's no backing down. And they
yeah.
double down on it, which is great.
Well, it's reversed because it's Schwartz who gets Flick to lick the
Yes.
pole, so then it's Flick who gets Schwartz to like endanger his life.
Fuck
And as an
Sky.
old man, you're watching him and you're just like, oh my god, his body's gonna shatter, you know?
And also and the growth of like the characters too, and they didn't really shy away from like I don't know the sadness of it, but like they were good kid actors. They didn't really do
Yeah,
much after the fact. They might have produced or written or blah blah blah. But like there's no like there, Flick was a big guy at the time. You know what I mean? Schwartz
yeah,
definitely going through his own issues. And I feel like they wrote that in there, and they're like, just make it a real life scenario where like you go back to your hometown and see your best friends, and you're like, some are doing really good, and some are not doing so great.
yeah, yeah,
So
absolutely. Um, I liked that this movie, and I got this from the trailer too. It had a little bit of Christmas Vacation energy in it too.
yes,
It felt like a spiritual sequel to Christmas Vacation. You got him trying to have the perfect Christmas for his family. It has some fun slapstick elements. I love the tree, like they buy the freakish tree and it's like scraping up the ceiling and stuff. That's all really
we
funny.
make it work. But like that, the tree from the first one is a tree that I will always chase. I don't know if anyone's ever
It's
seen it. It
so
just has
cool.
the classic red, green, blue lights, tinsel, and I think maybe that's it but the star. And there's no more. There's no more ornaments. There's nothing crazy.
Yeah,
But it just is the best tree for me because that's the tree you see from the street. That's the tree you see in the front window of every house on Christmas. And you're like, man, like I love trees. If I could, I have like four trees in my house at one time. Can't have one, but I want
right.
that one sloppy. You know what I mean? That
Yeah,
makes sense because The worst thing about this is, which also could be the best thing about this movie, would you consider this a success?
Yeah, I would. I would actually. I think this was pretty good. I think it
What
came out pretty good.
shies HBO from, because I'm pretty sure they have the ownership of Christmas Vacation, of doing a HBO Max. John Galecki comes back, Juliette Lewis comes back, Chevy Chase hopefully survives and comes back, and my baby Beverly
I was gonna
D'Angelo.
say
And
we know
like,
Bev D'Angelo's busy. She's working. She's just in Violent Night.
I saw that picture of those two, and I thought that's what they were doing, but I just saw it was a meetup. I
Yeah,
was like, oh
yeah.
man, I wish they were fucking filming something.
God, and man, Christy Brinkley still looks amazing. Goodness. Man,
All of them look good. Chevy Chase, you're a dickhead. I'm sure you're tough to film with, but
he's a
I'll
bad
watch it.
person, probably.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
so I do have a hot take. We just said this was a success. I actually like this movie quite a bit, and I was
Yeah.
skeptical going into it because but I am gonna criticize. I don't like the bully subplot. I think it feels tacked on, and and then the way it resolves with him being the cop is fine, but it left
Yeah.
me confused because how did Ralphie get his car? Because he got the cop picks him up. He drives to the place where he has to break in and steal the star. When he comes out, the cop takes him home. His car's still at the bar. Who took him to go get his car? You didn't help me out. You left my. I gotta need my car, dude.
And I don't know if I missed this again. This was supposed to be filmed weeks ago. We didn't do it. My fault. Oh, those kids, the original bullies, the kids on snowmobiles, which even to this day, I live in Chicago right now, and even in the suburbs, I've never seen anybody on a fucking
No, nobody
snowmobile.
rides a snowmobile. No matter you would have to. People, you live in Alaska. You have a snowmobile. You don't
They
drive them
weren't
in the
related
city.
to Zach Ward, right? The Farkas character, or were they?
They were supposed to be, yeah, like at least one of them, if not both of them, were supposed to be his kids.
His kids, okay.
Because
Because that
he
they
mentions
don't
his
give
kids
you
having
enough.
a snowmobile or something.
Yeah, like they don't give you so much of it, and like if you know what stinks about this is because this character fucking is a actual piece of shit in real life. But the Home Alone thing they did last year, I believe, on
Oh yeah,
E
yeah, where Buzz was like the security guy or something.
security guy, the cop of it, and he's like, "Oh, my brother
Yeah,
used to play a prank on me." Like it falls into that where like I really hope and that we don't see that coming at
yeah.
like, but they just use the same thing with it, which stinks because like you have Zach Ward, you could have made him be something. What if he was the mayor of the fucking town and like cleaned up his image? Like, there's some things you
Yeah.
could have
Well,
done
I
with.
didn't even mind. It's like that part, him ended up being the cop and stuff. I didn't even mind that and their little interaction. That was kind of fine. I guess I just didn't really get much out of the kid bullies and the kids like having to learn to stand up. That felt the most kind of perfunctory is like of all the things they kind of brought back and kind of did a take on, that one felt the most like just the same beat, really. Like,
And also, like, if someone runs over your snowman, just rebuild it. You know what I mean?
yeah.
It's don't be that upset. Also, the thing what they did with the kid, the lead older boy, they tried to reverse everything because I think Randy was like the one who's like, "Help me up," and they just tried to
Yeah.
flip everything on its head, which is great. But the mom, do you know who the mom's from, right?
No, I don't think so.
She's, I believe, the lead mom in Just Friends.
Oh, okay.
Be yourself. I don't know if you know.
I'm not a Just Friends guy.
Oh, okay. Well, she plays
But
like the mom.
I did feel
Uh,
like her characterization of the mom was a little off from the original
oh,
movie.
yeah.
It didn't feel quite the same. She had a little bit more of a flighty kind of like ditzy energy in this one, where the mom, I just didn't get that from the mom in A Christmas Story. But I mean, the actress, like the performance was fine. I just felt like
Yeah.
the character was a little off. But
I feel like all
small criticism doesn't
yeah,
really hurt the movie.
all portrayals are fine. It's just the mom for the first one, they made her seem like the backbone of the house. Remember, he's like, my mom has never had a
Right,
hot
right.
meal in her life, or like every time she sits down, everyone wants something else, and like she never backs down from it. This one, like, they definitely once the dad passed, there's a way to they should have passed that torch where she becomes probably like it would be an awesome scene if like the furnace breaks down and then she fucking is like
Yeah,
fuck
she does.
this
It
and
makes
files out on the
sense
furnace.
herself.
Like there's ways And also, I wonder if this was rushed in a way to where HBO Max might have threw tons of money at Peter and was like, "Hey, man, right? Did he direct this? I don't
Oh,
know.
I don't know if he wrote or directed. Did he do beat? I don't know. I'm not sure
I
about
mean, if he
that.
wasn't involved in some type of way that, like, even production wise, if he wasn't like executive, I don't see how they would have got him to do it because he talked about it since again 2003, 2004 ish,
Yeah.
where it's like, how did they get him to do it? So unless he had full like creative control, it's tough because again, they did Christmas Story 2. They got the only person they got was Daniel Stern, and it was supposed to be like a direct sequel to the first one, which they made. Obviously, I don't fucking know when that came out. It was like 2007, I want to say. Um,
Peter Billingsley did work, like do some writing on this, yes, but
and
it was
even
not
if they say
directed by
he did,
him. It
yeah,
was
they could
directed by
have
Clay
this.
Kaitis, who directed Christmas Chronicles, Angry Birds, Frozen,
Oh,
Tangled.
so him and Netflix have a
He's like
nice
an
little
animated guy.
yeah. But that's the thing. Like they definitely tried a sequel with this, with having Stern, which everyone knows from Home
Yeah, I
Alone, and
remember Daniel
the,
Stern being in it, and they just have
the
like some
old man.
teenage kid who kind of looks like Ralphie. I
Yeah,
never watched it. I saw some videos about why it was bad, but I never saw it myself.
it's not something to watch. It's like an ABC Family type movie where like Ralphie wants a car, and like that's the present of the next Christmas
Yeah,
time. Rifle wants a
yeah, they
car,
just redo it instead of the BB gun. It's the
and
car, and
guess what?
that's
He gets the car on Christmas, and guess what? He gets the girl, and like all that type of shit. Like this one
yeah,
has a sadness to it. Obviously, Brian, we're the dad, we're the we have the dad relationships in this podcast that kind of contrast each other. But it for me, it was also a tough one to see the old man.
yeah.
It's
Oh,
going.
absolutely.
They spend a lot of time on it too,
Yeah,
like calling Randy, which I don't know if that guy's ever acted again in his life. The actual kid who played
probably doesn't seem like it.
no. So when he came in, I was like, "That's what I'm. Is that the actual fucking kid, or is it just some rando guy that it didn't even look like him to me?"
Yeah, he was such a little kid. He barely looked like anything. Like, you know what I mean? Little kids all kind of you never know what a little kid's gonna grow up to look like
I don't pay attention to little kids.
unless they're really ugly. You can like really tell them.
Like, well, I mean,
It's
also
hideously ugly.
with this movie, does it? Do you think we see a third?
I hope not. I would rather them just leave it alone now. Like you got lucky that this is serviceable. If you push it, it's only going to be diminishing returns.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like even in this one, I could see an argument for being like everything is a callback, kind of like even things that like you talked about the mom and the hot meal. We even have a variation on that where she has to
yeah,
finish all the leftovers and can't let anything go to waste. So like not it
all the
didn't bother
lasagnas.
me, but you could already hear a criticism of like everything is just a variation on something we've seen. There's nothing new, which is not true. There are new jokes, there are new bits. I actually
Yeah,
that's why I liked it. But the more you push it, the more the seams are going to start to show. So I would leave it alone. It's not anybody. Although we're talking about HBO Max here, they're cutting costs. So we
yeah.
might, unless they sell it off to someone else to make it, I doubt they'll make another one.
No, but also it's
It
like,
was
do they
Legendary Pictures too, though. So maybe they take it and go do
and
something
do a
with it.
universe where it's like the next movie's Farkas's family Christmas type of shit,
Then you crossed over with the Godzilla universe because that's the Legendary Pictures also.
and also they do who else do they do? Was it fuck
They had Pacific Rim too, I think.
that Guillermo del Toro does a lot of their stuff, right?
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
did.
Legendary Pictures does have a lot with Guillermo. Yeah.
Okay, where did this fall? I don't remember when we did our rankings of Christmas movies. Shout out old Christmas episodes of this. Where did this fall for you? The original.
Oh, the original's got it.
Yeah.
It's probably in my top two or three. I don't know where I ranked it. It's like this, Christmas Vacation, and Scrooge. They're like my
Yeah, I think
three big Christmas movies.
other than Scrooge, I'm right up there with you. I don't know what I'll replace with Scrooge off the top of my head. But that's also a really good movie I just saw. But like, okay,
I could put in
I,
Muppet Christmas Carol too. That's top tier.
Yeah, but that's Scrooge, right?
Well, there's a lot of Christmas Carol movies out there.
What if they do? Because no, it's Disney Plus, right? Muppets.
Yeah, Disney Plus has Muppets.
They did like another Muppets, like a Christmas Carol too. Anyway,
Well, there are other Muppet Christmas movies that aren't the Christmas Carol one. There's like a Muppet Family Christmas or something like that. I don't think I've seen it though.
no, I don't know anything about those ones. I've never seen Muppets Christmas Carol at
You're
all.
missing out. It's a good one.
I mean, am I though? Yeah, I mean,
Oh, you are.
I try. All right.
Muppets sing
Well,
a
I'm just,
song. Muppets sing songs. TJ.
does this sequel even fall like into like a rewatchable Christmas movie to you, or like something that like
Oh, yeah, I'll probably rewatch it on Christmas Day when I'm watching Christmas Story. I'll probably watch this
oh,
again,
instead of
and
watching?
it might make it into my rotation. It's a good enough sequel that I think it could. If they put out a Blu-ray of this, I'll buy it.
Hmm. If they did a duel, I'd buy it.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I just have a special edition DVD. I haven't switched over to Blu-ray for Christmas Story
Yeah,
because I like
same.
my Christmas my DVDs. I like it. It's nice.
I'm pretty sure my DVD is just the TNT special. Back in the day, it's just like all those cutscenes
It
from
has
that. I'm like,
commercial
yeah,
breaks
yeah.
in it.
Yeah, it's like there's no breaks at all. But I mean, fuck. I'm trying to think if they ever did a third one because it's 70s. Ralphie would be an old man. There's no reason. There's no reason. They did a lamp. They did every member berries you could think of.
Yeah,
What would you
yeah.
rate
I
it?
think
Do you
that's the
rate
thing.
these
I think
things?
they hit all the notes, and like anything they tried to do beyond that would be. It's like they're already pushing it. I would
Yeah.
say. I would say you're already teetering on like, and like I said, I'm a person who has a lot of goodwill. I guarantee there's people out here who are more critical than me, and I am already telling you that if you push this too far, you could fuck it up. So I would let it alone. I think you did a fine job with this. I think this is just right. It had just enough nostalgia, but it was also fun in its own. It had its own jokes and bits. It could watch it. You could watch this as somebody who had never seen A Christmas Story and still enjoy it
Yeah.
on its own merit.
It definitely hits you on the nose where like all the main things you knew, the rabbit or the pink bunny, the leg lamp, everything like that hits,
Yeah,
and they show you it also. So you're right. You could actually just dive into this and be like, oh wait, and then
yeah,
which is great because you get a new generation. They'll go back and want to watch that, and you'd be like, it'll be on 24 hours. Just watch the fucking
yeah.
Christmas.
Don't worry, you'll have your chance to see it.
Eggs, yeah. Do we rate these things?
No, we don't usually
Okay.
rate or rank on flybys. I mean, obviously, A Christmas Story is goated. It's ascended to the pantheon of all time great Christmas movies. And I think we both would agree that this is serviceable sequel,
Mhm.
inoffensive, not does not trample the legacy of A Christmas
There's
Story in any way.
There's no Lost World Jurassic Park where it goes too big, too much. There's not, you know what I mean? It's nothing like
That is a
it's
debate for a
just,
different day because you're talking about the second best Jurassic Park movie right there.
which is a great film, but I'm saying like they did kind of, the San Diego part is what I'm saying, like you go too big too far.
The best part of the movie, you mean?
You're,
TJ, that's not what
I'm
this is
arguing
about. We're not
myself.
having that discussion right now.
All right, Brian, where can they find you, buddy?
Listen, it's Christmas time, guys. And before we leave, I just want to let you know that I still got blocked by a Snyder, bro, yet today in 2022. So for that kind of content, follow me on Twitter at Hercules.
And you guys find me at TJ Dex, and you guys are on Flyover State of Film. Check out our latest episode of Violent Flight, where we talk about Violent
Ooh.
Night, the second movie we've seen in films all together, or in the theaters because we all watched Avengers Endgame in theaters together. But check that out, and guys, like, subscribe, follow. Love y'all.
And in all
Merry Christmas.
seriousness, we love you. Merry Christmas. And to all a good night.